Welcome to yet another edition of our AI Unscripted series. And today I'm again not alone. And today I'm going to talk about, and we are going to talk about something special. We're going to talk about art. We're going to talk about music. And so for the session today, I'm here with Benjamin and with Arne from Casco Phil. So maybe a brief words. Who are you and what is Casco Phil? So maybe Benjamin.
Yes, so
starting with you.
Casco Phil is a collective, creative, adventurous, socially engaged cultural organization.
Whoa.
That's what it stands for.
Yeah.
We are around since 2008. Yeah. Okay. And we're a little bit different if you compare us to other like orchestras or similar collectives, in that sense that we are extremely adventurous. We're looking for different concepts. We're trying to looking at borders of performing arts. We also like to mix different arts in each other. We just don't only do music. Sometimes you can see us as a small ensemble, but sometimes also as a very, very big orchestra with choir and everything. Mm-hmm. And we experiment a lot. We experiment in every sense. So different art forms, different music kinds, but also where we perform, for example. We play concerts in the most adventurous locations, so to speak. So we're a little bit different, and we like experiment and rock and roll in classical and modern music.
And you're the conductor?
I'm the conductor and the artistic director, yes.
Okay.
And founder as well.
How?
Co-founder, yes.
Co-founder.
Arne?
I'm the manager of Casco Phil since 1 year now. I actually have a background in music philosophy, musicology. I play the clarinet as well. And during my education, I did a PhD about orchestra models and the way an orchestra model is related to the repertoire that they program and that they can play. And Casco Phil obviously was a very interesting case for me, in the sense that indeed they, or we, as I should say, we do things slightly differently, and we look for the proper form to make music happen in a different way, on account of our structure that is slightly different from other collectives or orchestras.
Sounds a bit like analyzing data and then seeing what the best output is. Is it that?
You could compare it like with that. Yes, absolutely.
So it's on topic.
It is absolutely on topic. Yeah.
And so why did you accept my invitation to talk about your stuff in an AI context?
That's a very good question. I think AI and music present a very interesting case because they seem very far apart. Yeah. And we think that they are not. I think that the AI train also for music has really has departed, and we will have to deal with AI in music, in our industry. And I think it's a very important distinction that we need to make between what AI will do with music as an art form versus what AI will do vis-a-vis the industry at large. So the more commercial aspect of music. And the combination of these things makes it a very interesting thing for Casco Phil, because we are always looking for new formats. We are always looking at new ways to experience music. We like to deploy new technologies, etc. So it's in our DNA to be curious about innovations such as AI, but also we cannot avoid it. It will be relevant for our business.
We'll now go back to the more ethical things and the ingenuity and of the stuff in a second. But maybe Wind Symphony is one of the things that maybe some people have heard of. What is that about?
Well, the Wind Symphony is a very interesting project we did with the Port of Antwerp and the University of Antwerp, a cooperation with Casco Phil. And actually, one of the CEOs in one of the companies there, he already had for a while a dream to make the wind turbines that are positions all over the harbor, to make them sing. And it was just a silly idea, and he wanted to talk with someone about it. And then we got acquainted, and we started to think, okay, what can we do with this? And then I was thinking, perhaps, we call it windmills, of course. And then we were saying, okay, what is this? What does this do? And then I thought there must be a lot of data output in this gigantic thing. And then we were talking with engineers, and then they say, with this kind of data, we have power output, we have the speed, we have all kinds of stuff. And then I asked, can we see this data? And then they really transferred a data set. And then if you see this, it's visually, it's very interesting and very, I was getting really enthusiastic, because anything that is data, you can also transfer it into music, into rhythms, different tones, tone lengths. You can create all kinds of stuff with it. And then we started to develop an algorithm. So all this data comes from these engines, and so strictly it's not really AI, but you might as well use an AI system to gain all this data and then process it and make it into an algorithm. But that's what we did. So we gathered all this data, and then we turned it into music, and we created a complete wind symphony, like a really big, large piece of music for a symphonic orchestra with a singer even. And we did it in the harbor. We worked almost 2 years. Because it was the first time, it took quite a while. Now we're going to do it again. Now, of course, we can do it in way less time. But that was the idea. So you put data, you see what you can do with it. You work together with a composer to make everything match the format we need for an orchestra. And then there we were. We turned data into a symphony.
It's a different form of creativity. I guess than starting from a clean sheet of paper. And I don't know how you typically write music. Well, you start from a clean sheet of paper typically.
Exactly. And I think that some people might think that this is not composing at all, but that's a point where we would disagree, because I think that, first of all, the very idea of doing a project like this is creative in itself, is in a way, this is the artwork. And also, there is a composer, in this case, that designed the algorithm. So in that sense, it's not strictly AI, but it is, in a way, it's like traditional AI, because you put the data in the algorithm and you lose control of the output. But the prompting, so the creative part, is still with a human being. I mean, someone gathered the data and designed a structure that would eventually lead to the final product. So I don't see where this would not be art, although the product itself is made by a computer. It's not controlled in every note by a composer. So it's not a clean sheet of paper. That's true. But on the other hand, I don't think that a clean sheet of paper is a real beginning of a musical piece. You always start from structures in your head that you have been developing for a while. It's not a mathematical algorithm, but at least it's a structure where you depart from.
You only have so many notes.
Exactly, you only have so many notes. Yeah. And with your own experiences, background, education, you have kind of structures, kind of patterns that you use to put notes in the proper order, let's say. So in a way, it's always determined by a pattern or a structure. And in that case, it's not really different.
And also music only becomes music if it's being performed. So on paper, it's not even music. Different from a painting. A painting is and will always be the same painting. And music starts with an idea, as Arne said, and it may be on paper, but it's not coming alive. So until you play it. And then that's also an interesting discussion. Yeah. From what point onwards does it become music or human in that sense? Mm-hmm. It's interesting.
You think Beethoven would agree? Because there's also a project that was conducted for him. Can you explain a bit about that? It's the 10th symphony that they...
Yeah, the 10th Symphony of Beethoven is a very interesting case because there's no such thing as the 10th Symphony of Beethoven.
Yeah.
Beethoven wrote 9 symphonies while he was alive, and when he died, there were a few sketches of a 10th symphony indeed. And these last 20 or 30 years, many composers have tried to finish this work, and also AI. So at this moment, there are 2 versions of the 10th Symphony of Beethoven based on his original sketches. There is one version made by a specialist, Barry Cooper, a very well-known Beethoven specialist who knows his works very well and his life and the whole context. So he finished the piece, 100% human-made. And then there's the AI version of the 10th Symphony of Beethoven. They just fed the AI system with the sketches and a proper diet of all Beethoven symphonies, and then they saw what came out.
Yeah.
So now we have 2 versions, and it would be extremely interesting to do a sort of a test case for an audience, like, can we hear the difference? I heard both versions, and I think the 10th Symphony made by AI, first of all, it's amazing what comes out. It's amazing, but the trained ear can hear the traces of the other symphonies. It's kind of a very well-fashioned mishmash of his of his earlier symphonies, and actually that's where creativity is key. I think if you let AI finish it, the AI system will develop it on a linear scale, so to say. So it will devise it looking back on the other symphonies and then make a logical next step. And that's not how it works. That's not how a composer would write. His next symphony is not just the logical next step. And that's where that's I think where the difference is. So is this the 10th symphony that Beethoven had in mind? No.
So it strives for perfection a bit, whereas creativity is by definition not perfect. Is that a bit? Because
could be. Yes.
I mean, there's also a composer is also an emotional human being. So, for example, if you take Beethoven, but also if you take Schubert, for example, the music of Schubert, you can really sense the urge of the century he was living in, right after Napoleon went south. You can really sense it in all this music, and that's something AI cannot achieve. I think it's this deep feeling that you can really sense, and not only the logical steps as Arna was referring to, but something beyond that. And it's this beyond thing. This also I sometimes I refer it to as intuition. This element is something I think you cannot grasp. You can get very near to it, but you will always like sense the unhuman part in it, or the human part.
Which of course is relevant in all cases, and also the other episodes of the series we talked about, the fact that authentic intelligence, the humans will still be there.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think it already starts with the way you create things. As you said in the beginning, music, let's go back a few hundred years, you had a paper and you had a pen, and that was it. So that was absolutely starting from scratch, as where now you have so much different technology that makes things more efficient and faster, and sometimes it can come to really nice results, but all the different steps are not there, and it's the creation process is so different now. It has advantages but also disadvantages, and one of them is, for me, that you can sense that the emotion is missing.
There was a very interesting case a few months ago when Coca-Cola launched their Christmas campaign. There was a commercial completely made by AI. And apparently, I didn't see it, but apparently a lot of people didn't really believe the commercial because the emotions were fake. They were AI generated. So I think we shouldn't underestimate the emotional intelligence of the spectator.
Yeah.
And with music, it's exactly the same. If you listen to, let's go back to the same example, the 10th Symphony made by AI Beethoven, you hear that it's kind of dry. You don't hear Beethoven's sweat on the paper, so to say. And that's what you really miss in things like that.
Yeah.
And of course, change is always complicated. They also said that a video would kill the radio star. The radio is still there. And it's also from a business perspective, sometimes a bit complicated to see you've got the history, a technical background, and suddenly you need to add a layer of technicality, which is then more AI or data-driven. In your environment, how quick is the acknowledgement of people that, yeah, indeed, it's part of, or is it that the majority is still saying, yeah, but we're above this because we're creative. We need to start from a white sheet of paper.
Yeah, it's a very interesting interesting question. Yeah. Let's say that our industry is in two parts. So we have the entertainment part. So we also record, like, for example, film music and pop music. If you hear strings and you hear on any kind of Belgian pop song and you hear real strings, it's probably us, or there's a good chance that we are that. But at the other side, we're also playing a Schubert symphony. Next week, we're going to do a Schubert symphony. So it's really two different aspects, and of course in the more in the entertainment industry part, it's very, very interesting and very productive and efficient to use this. I know composers that don't read music; they can't read notes, but they write film scores. So that was not possible in Beethoven's time. There were no films either, of course, but. So that's the whole possibility now, but still the other part is completely different, like being in a concert hall, listening together with like 1,000 or more people to the same music being produced by string players, by wind players. That's of course a very impressive event, and I think the more our world is being digitalized and automated, the bigger the contrast gets between an experience such as being in a concert. And I think we should really also exploit this idea and really turn it into an amazing event. If you see youngsters today, they grow up basically with a cell phone in their hand. But if you go with them to a concert, for them it's like, wow, out of space. And I think this contrast between these two aspects is really very interesting.
Yep. Like the synthesizers that hasn't replaced the...
Exactly, exactly. I think as they say, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. The AI thing is coming for us, but it's not eating us alive. It's not coming for all of our jobs, because indeed the contrast, people will always enjoy live music, and there is a specific law in our business. It's called Baumol's law or Baumol's curse, that claims, or that states that music production will the costs of making music will only rise, but the efficiency will not rise with it. So you always need a string quartet to play a Beethoven string quartet, and with AI it's kind of like the same thing, in the sense that the production is being more efficient, but the result still needs to be on stage. And that is something that AI cannot replace. It's a unique thing about music. It's about enjoying things together. If COVID has learned us one thing, it's that we cannot miss it. And why I said the proof of the eating is in the pudding. We already had perfect music before AI. If that was a major threat, orchestras would have collapsed 100 years ago with the rise of commercial recordings, and it didn't. If you want to listen to a Bruckner symphony, stay at home and listen to the CD. If you want to see a football match, watch it on TV and not in the stadium. And yet people go to the stadium, and yet people go to a concert, because the live experience is not something that AI can replace.
Yeah.
And in the educational system, do you see that if you follow courses to become musician and what have you, is technology, AI, is that starting to become part of the curriculum, or is that coursing in church?
Slowly, I think.
It's not yet really a part, but of course, kids that are going to the music schools when they're like from let's say 6 onwards or something, I don't know. They of course they grow up in an environment where technology is like everyday based. So the way they look at learning music is slightly different, and also the publishers and the education systems, they implement of course also new technology in that. So I do think it will play an important role, but at the end of the day you have these notes that are written and you want to learn them, so you have to go through this. Either way,
there's no choice.
Yes, I mean you can have 1,000 apps, but it's still the same notes, and you will have to learn it if you want to really read music.
And yet I think, for example, in the education of composers, people are right now already experimenting with AI as a very good assistant. Like they let an AI system do what they can do themselves, but they let AI do it because it's just faster. And also to check for errors, for example, in a score, which is extremely time consuming, and a very well trained AI system can
like a
do it.
co-pilot type of approach. But
Exactly.
Music.
Exactly. So that exists already. We know composers here in Belgium that use AI just to do, let's say, the manual labor of composing. They could do it themselves, but it's just more efficient to let the AI do it. But it doesn't take away anything from the creative part.
It's just different. As a composer, you start to think differently as well, knowing that you have all these technologies that can assist you, and it already exists for many years. I think already over 20 years that there's software that is harmonizing a melody. So you just can write one melody and you put it in the computer, and the computer finds out which harmonies are suiting this melody. So it's not so new, but now of course it's going faster and faster. This AI goes like really fast. It's very interesting to see where we will end up at the end of the day. But I think this emotion and this intuition is an aspect that will never be threatened by any technology.
Which of course opens us also the ethical door, because the question is then, who will own then the music? Because is it the machine or is it the person?
That's always a very tricky thing, and has always been in music history, because music is not tangible. So the music is not the score, the music is not the notes. Music is what people perform. And how do you pinpoint that? That's a very difficult thing. Who owns a symphony of Beethoven? Will it always be Beethoven? Or is it the musicians that perform the work and actually create the artwork over and over again? So from a philosophical point of view, that's already a very problematic or a very complex discussion. And now with AI, it's getting even more complex.
Yeah, I think when we're talking about ownership, because that's what you are referring to, it's a very complex legal thing as well. Now sometimes you hear that people that have a certain song, they hear another song and say that these bars or this 30 seconds, that's actually my song, and they start to sue each other, etc., etc.
Yeah.
We already know that, but if you go deeper into the subject, the process behind AI is not so far away from the intellectual process a composer has been going through, not on a personal level only, but also if you go back like centuries and centuries. If you hear, for example, let's say John Williams, the film music of John Williams, he also got his information somewhere. So he got to know symphonies of Haydn, which are a few hundred years back. He listened to Mozart, he listened to Beethoven, he listened to fellow composers. So he also has stored this information somewhere in his brain, probably even sometimes without even knowing it, and he's also using that in his own music. So that's also a kind of intellectual stealing, I would almost say. And what is the difference between an AI system that is being fed by all these other music that come from anywhere in the world, hundreds of years back, and a composer that actually uses his own intellectual capacity? It's a very thin line there, so it's going to be interesting to see how you can like get this into some kind of legal framework. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's also currently an interesting exhibition in Brussels on a number of photographers that are well known, renowned for doing it the old way, but now they basically took pictures with AI, in fact. And they basically say the same thing, because I read an article and they're saying the same thing as you do. It's an aid, but the picture that at the end you see, that's not the thing that is coming out of AI. There's still a lot of work that is done before, after, and all that stuff. So that's interesting. Eh?
It is extremely interesting.
It's an assistant, but it's not going to take over.
Yeah, it's also a different angle of creativity. So you use AI to make something, whatever it is, and then you need also creativity to prompting before you begin, but also afterwards to make it exactly how you think it's an added value. And at the end of the day, there's only one person that will judge for himself, is it art or not, and that's the audience.
Exactly, and that's the whole contextual thing that plays in music as well. Like, for example, this very well-known piece of art, which is basically just a banana duct taped to the wall. The product itself we can mimic, but we didn't create it. We didn't create the context. What is the piece of art? It's the idea behind it. It's the context behind it, and not the work of art. So we can mimic it, but we didn't create it.
Which is a good way of ending, because our time is up for today. But definitely interesting, and also the banana example. We need to make sure that we're not slipping over the banana. But thanks for joining me, and thanks for indeed sharing your views on a topic which is, from first instance, far from AI, but it's really close too. So I think that's very interesting. So thanks for joining me. Thanks for again listening into this episode of our AI Unscripted series. Many more to come, but for today, thanks for tuning in, and see you soon. Bye-bye.